Yeah.
How are you gonna drive at night?
Yeah, it's gonna be dark when you leave
I can
here.
see,
I
but
think-
it's-
I think
it's-
I think you're gonna be in the back.
I think you're gonna need an
I think
escort.
Dan's
I
gonna,
am
you're gonna have to give up that driver's seat.
yeah.
Michael, can you stand up or something? I'm trying to get focused on
Until next week.
to clear off the glasses, give it a hard time. Right? For some reason, the camera's not focusing up.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, I might stand for the whole.
Sometimes those cameras need something to focus on.
Public forum. After roll call. There should be an extra one. Devin, do you have an extra, agenda for Harvey? Or
Kyle, over
or
there.
Kyle had one?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'll get that changed, thank you.
So she calls it Corinne or Corinne?
Corinne,
Corinne.
at least she's never corrected me. Good, let's make it consistent.
What's the good word, Lisa?
Yeah,
Just came from a visitation.
Oh,
Yeah.
so I guess. Yeah. No. Oh,
What's that?
Kyle, what's your question?
not much. I'm just, yeah, hanging out. Took the day off to watch or
Which
hang with the kiddos today. Daycare didn't have it, so
So
it was awesome.
$300 for sport club.
Oh, it was more than
That was, wasn't that?
that. Yeah.
That was before I was here.
Yeah. It's not just a spark plug. Don't worry about that.
Wow. It's an expensive sport.
Sorry, Kyle, the database is not, that we use, the system that we use is not smart enough to list out all of the things.
It was probably the first thing on the list.
Yeah. On the
I
electric,
don't know about the business. I'm back.
on the farm and utilities, you might find that the town clock is like $10,000. You know?
It cost a lot to run that clock.
yet. And then whenever you're ready, your mics are all off right now too.
Four. Okay.
It's working.
The batteries are replaced today, so we're good to go.
Oh, yeah. What do they take?
Doubles.
Rechargeables?
That's not a bad idea.
They just charge them up before every meeting.
A copy of the agenda. It's right there.
Oh, thank you. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Anybody here for public forum? See none.
Public forum?
Yes, public forum.
I didn't want to be first, thank you.
You'll be the only one.
Oh, no backup? Question.
Well, what's your name? State your
Oh,
name.
excuse me, Harvey Benson, Harvey from Harmony.
Good to see you.
Thank you. I was at the library board last night and I heard that there was a recommendation of no increase for monies for the library. Is that correct?
I don't know if we're supposed to answer questions like that.
And, I mean, during the public forum, you don't have to engage in
Right.
discussion. It's an opportunity for you to receive feedback, but
Yeah.
you're certainly welcome.
There was a budget committee that suggested no increase because of mostly because of the last 2 years. There were quite large increases for the library.
We do know that the inflation rate now is 7%, which seems like it should indicate that an increase in order. And I don't know how often you go to the library. I go there about 3 or 4 times a week. I'm a very avid supporter of the library, so I just wanted you to kind of reconsider that in your activities this evening. Thank you.
You bet. Anybody else for public forum? Okay. Move on to the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? I see we have the Smith in the consent agenda,
Yeah,
but
it's
that payment would go out next month.
$1,000. Yep. I haven't got an official invoice from Smith yet, but we usually approve the membership in September.
Okay. But this would approve it for 1,000.
Yep. And I did not receive the sheriff contract yet for 2023 yet. The amount is unknown, but we can still accept their services for 2023.
Yeah, as long as there's no change in the contract language, it's just pay as we go, I think. You know, think there's a specified, you have to look at the old contract. When's that contract come due?
Every year,
It
end of
renews-
end of
December
year,
or January? It renews every year automatic.
Yeah.
If there's no change.
December. It runs January 1st to December 31st.
It's an actual cost contract.
All right, here, no discussion. We'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Preliminary budget.
Yeah, so yesterday I met with Steve and Steve on the budget committee to discuss the 2023 tax levy. Reminder that our levy can go down, but it cannot go up after we approve the preliminary levy tonight. On your resolution 2213, you see all the levied funds that we have within the city. I'm pulling that up here on the screen. So this is roughly a 3.5, I shouldn't say roughly, this is a 3.5% increase from last year's budget overall. Discussion to talk about available funds that we have up there to change up or lower. That should be done tonight. I would like to say that last year I said that the increase won't have much impact on taxes. Little did I know there were such drastic changes to values last year for commercial and residential. This year, with that not happening, there should be minimal impact to homeowners.
I'll make a motion. We approve resolution 2213.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is this where I would ask then, or do I?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I know about the library then? I mean, I guess where you guys kind of met and chatted, just
Yeah,
last year was a 5%, I believe, that we,
Yep, it was 5%. Yep.
I know this year we went 7, which was a starting point to go from there, but
there's a couple things we considered, and there's a library fund.
okay.
And if those items that, in the amount from the request to what we dropped it to the, and we went to no increase, right?
You went to no city increase. The library still has an increase coming from the county.
Which is SoCo funds.
Which is, so could there be then, could I come to you right now and be like 1% increase? Or is what they've decided kind of,
This is what tonight's discussion is about.
okay,
Because like I said, after tonight, we cannot raise the levy, we can only lower it.
And just so everyone's clear, if this is approved, the 832 is what can't be increased.
okay. Yeah.
We can change the numbers in those categories around as long as we don't increase more than the 832.
Yep,
Okay.
32 is what we're setting to.
And just, I guess for clarification more than anything, the bottom 3 items, those are bonds, right?
Yeah, the bottom 3 are ones that's what we're levying for to pay our bonds.
Okay,
So those are 3 I would suggest that we do not change because anything that we lower from there would have to be taken directly from the general fund.
Those correspond pretty close to what our bond payments are.
Basically, I just make sure it's around, I just run up to the round number.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. It's easier to work with round numbers at the end of the year.
which I don't have the number. Yeah, sorry, Steve. I just didn't have the number in front of me. What was, do you know what 2 years ago was? Did we go from 3 to 5?
There's the revenue from
Okay, well, last year.
from us.
Oh, okay. So it is going, so it still is. Right, going up from that to that.
Right,
from-
yeah. You know, and then down here you have the total, which is
Okay.
basically,
My question then would be, is there any significant reason for a 7% increase?
No, that was just a starting point. I mean, that's kind of where, yeah, I guess our number came from is just, we were gonna start there and go down to whatever we could match, or it could get matched, but doesn't have to, no.
Or any projects or anything that would cause that to go up? There's justification for a substantial increase is always the best.
Right.
Just
the wages will go up 3%, right?
Wages.
And the,
Right now, there's a balance, I believe, is it 42,000,
It was a little less than that.
just a little less than that.
that's in that reserve fund.
Well, that's from their budget from last year, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's, okay, that's carrying
Left
over,
over.
left over.
And what happens to that if they don't?
it goes into the library.
Goes
fund,
into a
Okay.
kitty for the library.
And I
Yeah,
thought
the
this
libraries
was-
are the only fund that has that.
And how?
That keeps it
Okay.
carry over.
That keeps it carrying over,
what
so
the
there's,
balance is in that, in that fund balance or that savings balance.
That was roughly around 30.
So that would be if there was some significant project that wasn't.
That would
budgeted
cover,
for,
oh.
we could pull funds from that.
so there's 131 estimated.
Basically,
That'll be,
That'd be, yeah, because what,
Basically.
Celico was like $31,000, I believe.
Okay.
The county was about 31,000 in revenue.
okay. But yeah, no, to answer you, Jesse, there's no projects that I see. I mean, that
I know it's early
Yeah.
to tell.
okay.
We looked at the items and it looked like, you know, they had just jumped them all up. Yeah, pretty much just across the line.
Okay.
Just said, oh, it was this much last year, so we'll move it up to this much this
Yeah.
year. And it's a little tough because we're looking at expenditures year to date and obviously towards the end of the year, if it happens in other departments too, if they haven't spent their budget, sometimes they look to spend it.
Yep.
I know I don't think the parks really does that, and I don't think the fire necessarily does that.
Try to spend those.
And the library doesn't
Okay.
need to because they just,
Try
it
to-
just
Right,
goes
it
into
keeps
their
going.
fund.
Got it.
Projects.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, that's part of it, you know.
Thank you.
If that fund was a lot lower, then we would have
Right.
had a different consideration, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Any other discussion on resolution 22-13? Not, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. LTV broadband.
Hi, I'm Corey Howard I'm the CEO and founder of LTD Broadband.
Okay.
And tonight I'd like to talk to the council about possibility of us bringing fiber optic service to Harmony. Our focus as a company for the last 13 years has primarily been wireless service. And as a consequence of that, if you think of a donut around a city, that's what we've been able to serve. Once you get into the hole, there's too many trees, too much foliage for wireless really to work effectively. So we have some customers in Harmony that were lucky enough to live in an area where there's not a whole lot of trees between the tower and their home. But for the most part, when somebody calls us today and tries signing up for service, we've had to say no to them. And that's been true for quite some time. So
Where's your tower near Harmony, or do you have several?
So, well, we have a few. The closest one is on Heggs, Grand Lake in the southwest. So, you know, there's a dozen people probably that have sight line to that. And there's other obstacles. There's the water tower. There's other physical infrastructure in the way that would block wireless. So the physics of that are never going to change.
Sure.
One of the things that our company's discovered over the last 2 years is that it's been deploying aerial fiber at a much lower cost than what's traditionally thought. So, it's always been the story. I grew up in rural Minnesota, and we all know that it's the big cities that get the money and they get the fiber and they get the good broadband. And part of that has been a story of, I guess we as a company believe that it was historically very, very expensive to put in fiber. And over the last 2 years, we found that there is a way, especially in small towns, where we can work with incumbent utilities to deploy fiber quite inexpensively. So in the towns that we're building right now in southern Minnesota, we're actually offering gigabit speed service for $70 a month. So it's, we can afford to do that because it's cheaper for us to do. I brought a sample of the fiber that you guys can pass around. It's really light. In terms of the impact on utility poles, I mean, it's very, very small footprint. We don't lash it to wire. That is the fiber reinforced fiber. It's strong enough to go through any Minnesota wind. It'll hold ice at the spans that we work on in cities like Harmony. It's not an eyesore. It's pretty small in terms of the sightline footprint. And it's easy for us to deploy as well. And I understand, I spoke with Devin over a few email conversations, that the long-term plan for the utility is to underground electric facilities over time. And we're aligned with that. But in our view, perfect is the enemy of good. It's going to be significantly more expensive to underground facilities, and I'm sure your utility has done the numbers on that. However, there's an opportunity when utilities get undergrounded to do something called joint trench or joint build, where there's cost sharing between an electric utility and a broadband utility, or more than one broadband utility. And we would certainly be willing to do that as your undergrounding process goes through. And I realize there's probably some areas of town that are already underground. We're not committing to do that today. We're committing to do the aerial parts, but obviously, collecting $70 a month of revenues from customers will help us accrue funds to do some of the more costly underground work. It's something that could be installed really quickly, and we could engineer a network like this in a matter of a couple of weeks and probably build it in the matter of a couple of weeks. So you won't have lots of street closures we built a little bit bigger town in Missouri, Thayer, Missouri, in about 2 weeks. They're about twice the size of Harmony. And that also was a municipal utility. Thayer Electric is a municipal, just like Harmony Utility.
Mm-hmm. So the concept using our poles.
We would rent them. Yeah, we'd enter into a pole attachment agreement, and obviously there's a cost to the utility to maintain that pole infrastructure, and that's the goal in us paying for space and as a communication space renter.
And the local company, My Energy, is in a project right now to underground fiber to the.
We do, yeah. We think competition is good. I mean, that's we see it in a lot of markets we're in. We compete with MetroNet. I don't know if you've heard of them. They used to be called Jaguar. They got bought out a few years ago, but we compete with MetroNet in a number of markets, and they're pretty big and corporate. And I like MetroNet. They're fine. I have friends that work there, but they're one of these companies that they start the rate here, and then after a year it goes up, and we're definitely a little bit different focus in terms of how we market our services.
Where's your equipment at? Do you have a office or a?
So our biggest distribution warehouse is in
Yeah.
Clarks Grove, Minnesota.
Okay.
So that's where we dispatch a lot of our trucks out of, but we have techs in Northeast Iowa and Southeast Minnesota as well. So our techs start and end their day at their home.
But I mean, where do you light the fiber or?
So we have 3 fiber drains. That's how they talk about it. That's where it drains to, kind of like a river.
Okay.
Minneapolis, Rochester, and Waterloo. So kind of following the Cedar River Valley. So that way, if one of those fibers gets cut, we have fiber going the other way. So,
So it's redundant, you have a redundant system.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it comes down Highway 52 from Rochester?
No, it's back roads. It's
Back
not,
roads,
yeah,
okay.
for most of the main fiber lines, we try to run on back roads.
Okay.
It's just easier from a permitting perspective. Pulling, US highway permits takes longer.
Sure.
Same thing with state highways versus a county road. We can call it Fillmore County and get a permit pretty quickly. In aerial, we don't actually need road permits in most cases. But for a town like Harmony, what we would, if you guys had a permitting process, we'd obviously pull the permits for doing our aerial construction. But it's either a worker on a ladder attaching fiber to the pole, or it's somebody in a bucket truck. We're conscious of the fact that people need to go to work and go to the grocery store. We don't perk anybody in or while we're doing the work, and it's pretty fast.
So would there be an office or a base here that people would be able to get a hold of
So
if they have a problem?
we grew really fast during COVID, so we ended up hiring a lot of remote workers. So we have people all over the state that work for us from home in terms of phone answering. So we have employees in southwestern Iowa where we don't even serve, people that work for us there. But people in the Midwest, people that know where Harmony is, and nobody's going to have to explain on the phone what we'll be able to pull up their records.
So if a house signs up for it, the line will go from the line to the house then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we can underground. So if somebody's got a pole in the backyard,
Yeah.
we can actually follow the pole down and then we can underground a path to the house from the pole. But so
Okay.
we would place a splice case on the pole and then, we feather off that. So if there's 4 houses, we'd have 4 lines. They could go underground or they could go aerial. Typically aerial. We follow what the electric utility does most commonly. And that triax cable that runs to the house, that's insulated. So we can be very close to that.
Okay.
And still be NESC compliant. That's the National Electric Safety Code. So, and in that same vein, like everything we would do in town would be NESC compliant. So that requires you to be at a certain height for trucks to go under or ag equipment. So we go out there with a measuring stick and a camera and we take pictures of every single pole. And most importantly, the mid span where you see the droop in the middle, we sit there with a measuring stick and we measure that. So we engineer everything. So the
Measured
tall,
in the winter or the summer? No, just kidding.
well, I love my guys. They built all winter. We started in January and they were building in 20 below. And that's one of the other benefits for us of aerials. We have a 12-month season. Obviously we go slower in the winter, but we can build, the guys built a couple days in January, a mile and a quarter a day when it was 10 below. I was impressed.
So the people that already have underground electric and or telephone and
Yep.
everything else, what would you do in those areas?
So our intention would be to get to them as well. But our main focus, at least for the initial phase 1 build, would be aerial. So the phase 2, like we're building Grand Meadow right now. There's a substantial part of Grand Meadow that's underground. We're building the aerial first, and then we'll follow on with underground crews. But that won't be till next year. We don't have time to get permits pulled and do underground for this year yet. This project for doing aerial, we could do it, in October.
Which would only be the people that don't have underground.
Correct. Yep. And we're not trying to pick on anybody, but
Yeah.
the good news
No, but-
here in town is most people are still aerial, at least from the driving around I've done. So we'd cover a good chunk. But it's also driven by demand, right? You don't want to, this isn't Field of Dreams. You don't build a baseball park and hope somebody shows up. Like we'd survey people and make sure that they want to get the service because I don't want to dig up anybody's yard for no reason.
I wasn't looking for action tonight. He just wanted to introduce himself and introduce the project. If it's something that we want to continue on, we can continue talking and have a dialogue with it too.
Well, I think the utility committee should, kind of look at the consequences.
Mhm.
I don't know if we have unintended consequences here or I'm all for competition, but I don't want 2 broke companies.
Do you have a sample of the pole attachment agreement you could send to us?
We do, yeah. We can do, and we didn't write it. We wrote stole somebody else's.
You would need that.
You bet.
Send it to.
My wife's an attorney, so I know that starting with a base document is much better. Don't have to reinvent the wheel.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Court?
Thanks, Corey.
Great, thank you.
Great,
Yep.
thank you.
All right. Looks like Lisa's getting out of jail.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm looking for a motion tonight to move Lisa out of the probationary period and back to it'd be July 26th or one back month pay. That would increase. She would be moved to grade 3, step 1 under the approval of I had the position make sure it was graded correctly and graded grade 3, step 1.
So what was she prior?
Grade 2, step 1.
I'd make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and the second part to that is we'd like to make Lisa full-time on September 26th.
She's working 32 hours now,
Thir-
or less, 32 or less-ish.
September when?
It'd be the next pay period.
Is that a recommendation from the Personnel Committee or?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve moving Lisa to full-time. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
I'd also like to make a motion on just an
Can't make a
announcement that she's running the city on Thursday, Friday, and Monday by herself too. So bear with her, there's some slow reactions.
There we go.
go.
Throw you to the
Literally
wolves.
by yourself.
Yeah,
because
literally.
He's gone.
I'm gone Thursday and Friday.
Him and I are both gone.
Sam's.
Sam's gone, I'm gone, yep.
It's gone.
It's gonna be your problem.
All right. Move on to building and maintenance report. We have holiday lights. Is that the first on?
We'll go first with the wastewater treatment plant. You have the update from Rick. I met with Rick today briefly. He said everything is going good. He's saying the guys are vastly improving their knowledge of the wastewater treatment plant. He's been really impressed with how, with their work ethic and how they're working down there. So that was good to hear from Rick. Also, we're working on that UV study. That's supposed to be done by the end of September. Rick said that they might be done with it by next week. So by next council meeting, we should have the UV study in front of us and able to read what the next steps might be and how much UV system will cost us. So that is the good news on that is that's nearing its completion. So that's very good news. The second part then is last year we said we'd do half the lights and then reevaluate and see if we want to do the next half this year. That is the holiday lights, the snowflakes that we have currently. I know someone said they wanted bigger. Unfortunately, our poles are a little short, and we had a 5-footer up last year, and there was not enough clearance for trucks. Our snow plows would hit them, that kind of stuff. So we do have to go with 3-foot lights on the poles. We spent roughly $7,500 last year on those lights, so we'd be looking to get 15 more to fill in the empty poles that we had last year.
And that's going further north and south or?
Just fill in the blanks that we had.
Oh, the blanks, okay.
That would come out of the electrical fund?
Yep.
Okay.
And how much was that gonna cost roughly?
It depends. The answer is it depends. I hate to say that, but it depends what design you're going with, and there's different qualities too. Last year was about $7,500 for it.
Well, we're not gonna get, are they gonna be different than last year's?
The idea is not to get snowflakes.
Huh?
The idea is not to get more snowflakes, to get something different than snowflakes.
Okay.
Has there been like a recommendation? Sorry, Jesse.
I'm gonna do a not to exceed, make a motion to not to exceed $7,500 for the data lights. So we stay consistent. If we don't get them all, we can come back and get some more next year.
I'll second that.
Okay,
And I'll continue with the non-denomination winter themes.
I was just gonna ask us, yeah.
If you can get them all for, if you can get 15 of them for less than 7,500, let's go for
Yeah.
it.
I'll use the same vendors last year too.
Is there a problem with stock or anything, do you know, or?
No, they actually make everything to order.
Okay.
So it usually takes about a month from when I order them to when I get them. And then we got to figure out, now at least we know how to bracket them up there. With,
Same brackets were an issue last year.
Yep. Yep, but they figured out the bracketing issue too.
all right. Any further
Speaking
discussion?
of that, do we have other polls to go up yet?
Yes, we do.
Have you heard anything from Worms or?
They're getting to when they can.
Okay. Thinking they got plugins and they got brackets.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, we'll call for a vote not to exceed 7,500 on the additional holiday lights. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. We can go to EDA board.
You were there, right? Yep. All right. As we are right now, I guess what I'm looking at the addition out there for the houses that we talked about. There was 2 lots that have already been basically rebated, right? That we got money back because he didn't build. How are we going to determine that? Or is Hamel Addition going to determine that? As far as giving rebates if somebody builds?
So, yeah, I guess maybe you should get more background so people know what
Yeah,
we're talking about.
yeah, okay.
So the city, years ago, when Hamel House did the development, rather than giving them $12,000 as they built the house, like we have for the rebate program, the city came to a deal where they fronted that money to pay for the street infrastructure with the understanding that one house a year would be built, so that in the end, it all worked out according to the program guidelines. With the stipulation that if they didn't build a house in a year, they had to pay back $12,000 to square it up. So a couple houses have been built, a couple of other years have passed where there haven't been houses built, so they've actually reimbursed the city $12,000, I think, in 2 instances. But now they're moving to sell the rest of the lots rather than building on themselves. And so the questions come up of how's that work with the deal that's already been made. So we discussed that at the EDA, and I think basically concluded there really isn't much of a role for the EDA, that it'll be up to the developers as they sell these lots to work with whoever's buying them to make clear that either that the city's still going to expect their 12,000, whether it's the developer paying it or the new homeowner paying it. From a city standpoint, an EDA standpoint, we kind of set the expectation that we expect it to continue on as we've agreed upon, and it'll be up to them to figure that out as they go.
But our agreement is with Hamel House, and so if they expect their buyer to pay that, that's fine, as long as it happens, but if it doesn't, it's still on Hamel House.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
our,
We
that's
term
our
with them,
agreement. Yeah.
Or that, either that payment or to see the house built, either one way or another.
Mhm.
And the other point I think Steve was alluding to is, since they have paid a couple of $12,000 back, technically there's a couple of these lots that shouldn't have assessments on them because that they've been squared up. So there might be a couple sold on the front end that maybe don't have anything associated with that we worry about.
So would you say the first 2 sold would have no pending assessment on?
If that's,
It's their choice.
That would have to be a Hamel.
Well,
Choice.
that's
Choice.
like if I have someone buy a house, I get the little form that says, pending assessments on it. so I'd have to figure out whether that one has an assessment or not.
Yeah, we probably just need to communicate with Steve and Bria to make sure that that's one they wanted to use.
Okay.
Without its assessments. So it's kind of confusing, but at the end of the day, our assessment was nothing really changes on behalf of the city. We'll still look to the developer to make sure the terms are met.
And the city is up to, I mean, we have our money then?
Yeah, nothing changes.
I'm saying like everything was up to date. You were saying a year or a house per year?
Yeah.
And it's already been.
We're up to date now. They've
Yeah,
had
we're
to
up-
pay us
yeah, okay,
back
that's
what I-
12,000
Okay.
twice.
Now come January, who knows?
And say, yeah, that's what I'm, I guess, asking. January will be the first.
We've discussed if they catch up, so it's our option. I believe.
Okay.
If they catch up, we might let them have that 12 back.
Okay.
The goal is to get 10 in 10 years, so.
Yeah.
That was the biggest talk at
Yeah.
EDA.
This was the other highlight.
The other part of that, we talked about the EDA, discussed the housing rebate,
Oh, yeah.
thinking of getting the number bigger to be more attractive to people, possibly going to 20,000, but adjusting the brackets.
20,000 for a $500,000.
Yep, it would
Right
take
now,
up,
it caps out at a $250,000.
At 12 or something.
Right.
we're looking at a set of brackets that has not been decided on, but the new bracket, a $250,000 house wouldn't get the current 12,000. It would be less than that. I think the bracket shows about 300,000 before they would get the 12,000. But then a $500,000 house could get 20,000. And we're having Chris Geeson go over it to make sure that it's very likely. The things we've done in the past, we've had about a 4-year payback on. The goal in the beginning was to get that money back in new tax revenue within 5 years. And that's the goal of new brackets too, is to get that within at least 5 years, maybe 4 even, so.
So the point in that is there might be a new recommendation coming from the EDA towards the end of the year for next year's renewal that expands
For
it.
different brackets for,
And we would have to discuss, okay, so where do we get that money from? We're giving away money, right? So the concept would be, we'd kind of earmark future tax revenues that have been coming in from the new houses being built. So we could maybe float it in the general fund or identify a bucket of money somewhere. I don't think Devin likes the general fund idea.
I don't think I like
Yeah,
it.
we
I
have-
don't think I like the general fund
We
idea
have-
either.
The scary thing would be if you have, 5, 6, 7, 8 homes in a year, that would be, that
be
could,
remarkable.
it could be remarkable for Harmony, but it could be potentially harming for the city.
And so we could limit it, we could say it's eligible to the first 3 houses. Then I think if we saw people slowing down and, I was gonna build this year, but I'm gonna wait till next year to get a rebate. And it's like, is that what we want? People to be,
Well, we can
waiting
play,
to
yeah,
build.
if we get to that
Yep.
point, you can take
Yep.
a look at it.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that would go over front council in January
Yep.
when they re-up the rebate every year. The other big thing was a bike trail, Steve.
yep, then we also talked about the bike trail. The DNR has come back and said it's gonna cost a lot more than the funds they have from the bonding. So there's a couple things. We got a meeting set up with our legislators. The community fund has talked about raising money through the Give to the Max for a trail and maybe parks and trail fund within our thing that we would put money in, and then the city could write a grant to get the money out. Possibly use that to match. There's a couple sources for matching funds for these kinds of things.
So yeah, this project is going out to bid in November. They have about, was it 1.3 million left?
1.4, it says, yeah.
Okay, so 1.4 million left. It's going out to bid. And then they're going to work on as much as that 1.4 allows them to. There's going to be basically no embellishments. It's just going to be the trail. There's other issues that might arise if no one bids it, but right now the plan is to put the trail out for bid in November that the state will be handled, that the DNR will be handling.
Keeping the same route and everything.
Yeah,
Yep.
the land is
Purchase.
purchased.
And is good.
So when they talk about alternative bids, one example might be build the trail but no pavement, for example. The money only stretched that far. Or build the trail to this point, circle back for the rest later.
Yep.
And then our meeting with the state legislatures, the goal is to start brainstorming best ways to get the additional funds, mainly through, is there an opportunity this next session, if they're going to entertain bonding again, to ask for another 500,000 in bonding funds or something to that effect. So that hopefully by the time they're actually working on it, we do have complete funds available to keep it rolling.
Get us all the way to the cave.
So
The idea is get to the border. Yeah.
Get to the border, yep.
it's maybe worth mentioning, so there is some scenario because of the way bonding works, when we obtain this, the promise of these funds, you have 4 years to use it. If it's bid out and they award bid, we're safe. We allocate the money in the appropriate time period, we get to spend it and use it on the project. There is the worst case scenario, what if they don't get it bid out or there aren't any bidders? If we hit the end of the year and haven't awarded a contract, poof, that money goes away. So that's concerning, I think, to some of us. But there's a backup alternative is that the DNR can give the money to the city, but the big catch there is then the city's the project leader. So that has with it a bunch of negatives too.
Yeah, we'd have to probably reinvest in some engineering and that kind of stuff too. So
So,
that is the worst case scenario right there, is this, the city would get the money and do the project.
Yeah,
As
so,
opposed to
but
letting
we'd
it
have to
go.
do it under some of the DNR's guidance for the trail
All their
system.
guidance.
Yeah, the DNR said they would hold our hand. I was very grateful to hear that.
It's all engineered.
right,
It's just,
Well, you still have to, it's engineered, but there's,
yeah.
we all know
Yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah, they
So,
they could prepare the trail the whole way and have everything done but the paving. They might pave part the way. And like Greg said, if nobody bids this, it's kind of a weird and small project. So there are a lot of companies that just aren't going to be interested in this, so.
I did talk to Brett, and Brett said that they're probably gonna, he has a few people that probably would be interested, so he's gonna give me a list of potential contractors that can do the project.
Trying to look at locals around.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
so we need a lot of things to fall in place perfectly between now and the end of the year for this to go well. I guess if it doesn't fall in place perfectly, it might just be a busy month of December, talking about that plan B.
Yeah, there could be a special meeting late December if things go bad, just a heads up on that.
Maybe also note from EDA minutes, the Tin Rust and Harmony loan that was not being paid, that we started foreclosure process on, the city's now received its funds back from the other lien holder. So that one's closed.
Two more things from the EDA. I'm looking for a motion tonight to go after the Laura Jane Munster Fund grant. Chris has been working on it with, I've been answering his questions for it. It is to help us kind of have a short stopgap for either the shelter or for the splash pad. Chris liked the idea of the splash pad because it's a community fundraise project. It's up to $25,000 to help with some of the costs that we're basically unbudgeted for, the kind of costs us go over.
I would make a motion to approve us going after that grant, the Laura J., what was the last name?
Musser, Musser.
Musser grant funds of $25,000.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would use that. I would prefer to use that for the shelter. I mean, we've spent $75,000 on the shelter as our match portion. That did not include any of the plumbing or electricity installation. So we've already taken $75,000 from our general and reserves as a total, or we're going to when we finish paying them. And we have bills outstanding for that. It is a community project. It's part of the trail project. It's all of that. And as part of the, I guess as far as the splash pad goes, that was when they brought it to us, was gonna be raised funds, donated funds. Now, we as the city are, I guess that, to me, it's, we're going out and getting the grant to support that project. I think if there's an overage there, that the splash pad committee should try to fundraise and bring that money back to us, because it's gonna have to come out of somewhere, because the project is pretty much done, and I don't know where we're sitting.
We're waiting for the concrete bid.
We
still.
don't have all the breakdowns yet. We don't have the breakdown for the plumbing on the splash pad. We don't have the concrete. We don't have.
Yeah, we got the labor from the concrete, from the plumbing today, and we haven't gotten a breakdown from the concrete.
And we don't have, the whole project, splash pad and shelter have to be graded and backfilled, and we're still missing a sidewalk that's got to go from the shelter to the splash pad. I mean, there's still plenty to do with that project, or those projects.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it going there first.
If there's more,
Anything
if there's
the
more
city's
left over,
short,
absolutely.
But, the out of the splash pad fund already did come, all the infrastructure was paid out of there. That's also doing
What infrastructure are you talking about, Steve?
the water.
That was split.
It was split.
I think it was split.
City paid $16,000 and more, a little bit more for that water.
Well, part of that was
Yeah.
grinder pump.
Yeah, part was
They
grinder
did
pump, yeah.
6,000 from the park fund
And 10 from the fund, from the Donnie Wilkins
and
fund.
then 12, I think, so.
Yeah, and then when we moved that grinder pump, that all came from city.
The city
funds.
paid for that, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's another cost that we didn't have budgeted for all that, so I guess that's why I say that
15,
grant,
20, yeah.
that grant should come this way if we can get it.
Yeah, we were looking for a motion of where it should go to tonight, and that's kind of what,
And where are we at with the shelter grant? 50/50?
I'm waiting for all the invoices and I'm sending it out.
Okay.
Which should be started here next week.
Because we were hoping for 150, or we're going to be under that?
Oh, we'll pay our 75 and we'll get our 75 back.
Okay.
We're a little over that.
Okay.
Yeah, because, didn't that one change cost us a little bit more too?
Well, just for instance, we had 11,000 in plumbing in that building. We only covered the construction. We left.
Right.
The reason we left out the utilities is because if we included the utilities in that project, they'd have had been paid prevailing wages, which would have really raised the prices. So we kept out utilities on that intentionally
Oh, sure.
because it would have drastically increased the cost of the project.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good discussion. So the motion is to apply for that grant, and the funds, any funds received will first be applied towards the shelter project, and then they can go elsewhere. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
And the last thing in economic development is the kickoff meeting for the comp plan is going to be October 4th. It looks like we're going to have to do an in-person meeting. When I was looking through the committee people, we had two EDA members and two council members, but one of the council members is an EDA member too. So we will technically have an EDA meeting. So it would have to be posted and it would be a public meeting. So we would have to do in person then, right?
Yeah.
So what time would work best? Like a
We can
7
open
o'clock
that.
meeting?
We can just open that, close it.
No, you have to keep it open the whole time. Right?
That's not, that part's not a big deal.
Okay.
So would October 4th, 7 PM work for people on that?
Seems like I just put something down for October 4th. Nope, doesn't bother me.
Good time.
What's,
Did you say 7?
would 7 work best for people after work?
Looks good to me. Yeah, all day in Rochester, but. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So you'll get that posted as a council and EDA meeting?
I would have to, yep. So I guess any council members, non ED members are welcome to come.
Yeah. All right, library board, there's a little discussion.
We did.
Anything else going on there?
Yeah, the activities room's going good. Getting things painted, looks nice in the kids' room. Had a little discussion yesterday about some books. We aren't, if people do have, I'll word this, issues, or if there's certain books and stuff that came up in the meeting yesterday where if you aren't happy with a book that's on the shelf, or there's something going on where you don't agree with it, definitely bring it to our attention and then we'll kind of discuss it. We aren't banning books. We aren't gonna, do stuff like that, but we're gonna work with the people that come into the library to, I'll say please everyone, but make sure everyone enjoys coming to the library still and not, trying to get rid of certain things. So that was kind of our big discussion yesterday. None of us want to ban books. So that was a big topic, but want to thank Michael Himley for donating a bunch of books in memory of Todd Himley. So that was very, very nice of him. So that's
Nice.
good. Besides that, did have just one thing, I guess, within the library activities room or children's room there. They could have the one of the maintenance guys clean the heating and cooling.
Yeah, Terry
register.
just cleaned mine last week. You saw how bad they were getting, so.
Appreciate it. That'd
So
be
I'll
great.
make sure that they're aware of that.
Thank you. Besides that, you're good.
Good. Arts board meet?
They met in July. We didn't discuss much, and then we meet next week. I wasn't here for the August meetings.
Oh, Jesse, I have the agenda and all the financials in the office right now. So next week, when I won't be here, they're in the office done already for next week for the arts.
Okay. And did we get a sheriff's report?
No,
Might be a good report to have right before the recontracting.
We're not recontracting, we're just doing cost estimate. What we're doing is budgeting. Contracts didn't change. Tell you that.
Steve's here. Can I ask him a question?
Yes.
Got an update on the splash pad for us?
Yeah. Concrete's been poured. What's left is, and I don't know if Kingsley's done there or Bill, to hook up the water, so then he can, pressure wash the concrete pad,
Okay.
and then he could put the sealer in the shark plate down. And then
The sealer and what else? What plate?
Shark plate, which is the.
Oh, the
stuff,
grippy stuff. Yep. Okay.
that will go on with the sealer.
Okay.
And then, all this stuff is hook up the apparatuses,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
so.
Who does that?
our guys will be the ones hooking them up.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
What are we doing about the cracks that are already in that outer ring?
The mud crack,
Cracks in the concrete.
concrete crack. That's a designer.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna cause problems though. If it,
It's got rebar, that's not gonna. Good money rebar.
Okay.
It's every 18 inches. So it's plenty of rebar.
yeah, but you know what water and concrete do. I mean, they don't get along. winter and freezing.
Might
I
be
don't
good.
think it's gonna heat up and down. I don't think it's gonna move. The biggest thing is my biggest fear is we gotta get some, excavating done around it.
Al
Yeah.
Ferguson's been contacted to come and
Yep, I
Do
know, I
some of
talked to
that.
Brian about it.
but
Okay.
we're at the mercy of contractors right now. That's our biggest problem. I agree with you, it needs to be done, but- and hopefully it gets done here soon.
It could be good each fall when we shut it down to have the city guys caulk any cracks just to keep water from getting down in there and splitting.
Yeah, I get that.
And then we need to figure out, I need to investigate further whether or not we take down the apparatuses every year or not. I was under the impression that we don't, but I just want to make sure that we have that corrected too.
And I thought we did.
So yeah, we're just going to investigate a little bit.
Wonder what
I wonder what, yeah, the other, I mean,
other communities do in
Lake
Minnesota.
City, I know they said that they can either take them down or leave them up. The biggest thing I think that we need to make sure of is that we have the antifreeze in the system, so we're not in water line issues.
Yeah.
You know, what is the best answer on removing and leaving them? I don't know.
I fear that moving them a lot is going to cause issues too.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on that, maybe we should just get a hold of Rain Deck
Yep.
and see what they're.
Yeah.
We should
All
probably,
I know is they did tell us on the sprayers.
Yep.
Those got covers on right now. In the winter, we take those covers, the sprayers, up and put them back down on the sprayers.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, the ones
So
that
you
don't
remove the
have
sprayer head,
apparatus.
Remove the sprayer head and then put the cover back on.
Yeah.
So we have to keep the covers.
Yeah.
So let's have a little bucket or bin
Yeah,
someplace in the
that's-
shed.
That's the only thing I remember them telling me. Make sure that's, don't take those off and throw them away.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, and you know why I say that, because unfortunately there is
Yeah, like, well,
traffic that goes through.
we discussed saw cutting it too. And maybe in those points you could saw cut it.
Might be an option, might be something we have to look at.
Might be even worth snow fencing.
Yeah, Terry and I talked about that, the possible snow fence, and it just so snowmobilers don't potentially
Run over
hit one.
Jump over it.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Is there room in the building where the valves and stuff are to put the other stuff?
All the
covers,
apparatuses?
not the apparatus.
No.
The covers, yes.
Oh, the covers, yeah, the covers.
Covers,
would
But
be-
they have- the features, no.
No,
The features would have to be stored.
it's a tiny little closet, you know, you can go down there and visit it someday. It's not a very big room.
Okay.
So, I just don't want it to crack more and we have issues
no,
with
I
it.
mean, we discussed that when we poured this dry deck. And we knew that was gonna be a weak point. Where the 2 points come together. And I was against saw cutting because I've done it in concrete for many, many years. The crack buried me already sell balls, follows the saw cuts. It's just.
Well, and it cracked pretty quick. I mean, I don't know, maybe not cracked pretty quick, but it, you know, it hadn't been a week. There's a
Yeah,
week in
no,
between
I
the two
know,
quarters.
we know it's the right way.
So. But yeah,
And I'll find out on the water hookup tomorrow. Get that going too.
But I do want to say that, thank you to the city, park board. It looks, a couple of cracks, but other than that, it looks fantastic. I think it's going to be a great addition to our city, along with the shelter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot of use.
Will you contact Rain Deck or
I could-
other splash pads and get ideas on, you know, I think if we were thinking we
what
would
is,
remove those features, which I don't know if it makes sense to do it.
Well,
But if you
it
did,
might, because, I mean, right now, the piping that comes up from the features has a cover over it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So you just unbolt that feature, you put it someplace, you put a cover back on, you don't have to worry about any water going on.
and I
Yeah.
think that's the thing, and that's like I
That's,
said,
that was my thoughts. I mean.
Yep.
that was my thought too, and that's what I thought early on in this project was discussed, and I'm sure we've all forgot about it now. but
2 years.
yeah. It's the water issue, I think. The water freezing issue, if it gets in
Yeah,
there, might cause problems, so.
right.
I think, yeah, research and see what our best option
I'll
is.
call Ray Deck and let him see what they.
If we are gonna remove them, I think we should like buy a trailer and maybe the fire, have a whole fire trailer.
Put a sealed bin.
And then
for
mount
it or what?
Bring the trailer up and put the features in there. And
Well, right now there's only, what, 4 features, 3 or 4 features.
Something like that. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
the bucket's the biggest one.
Bucket and the fire hydrant and,
Some shooters, blasters, what they call them.
yeah,
I would think they can survive a winter just fine.
it's the.
We got the city shed that they.
So yeah, we'll investigate it further. That's one thing we're supposed to do.
Okay,
Perfect. I do have, if we're done with all the
yes,
committees, I do have one question that's regarding the car charging stations. Have we seen any revenue? I know we're paying out because I saw the payment. but
the which station?
Car charging stations.
Oh.
We're getting how the revenue stream is coming in.
Well, we didn't have much in the beginning because there
No.
was no system for them to pay.
So yeah, when
Now we had a little problem.
when it was set up by My Energy, it was set off as an authorized account. So it was basically people free of charge charged it. So we lost out on $46 revenue there. So we changed it now. We switched it over. So now we should be collecting. So we should be getting our first invoice here by the end of the month.
Those signs we got ordered.
Signs we got ordered too for it. Yep. They're in already. They're just trying to find the best place to put them. You're a little leery of driving a stake into a ground where there's some high voltage. So
I was thinking that.
we're trying to think of the best way to mount those signs because we're all kind of leery of driving a big metal rod into the ground where there's a lot of voltage. They're thinking of solutions to post the signs, yes.
Stupid. I don't know if you saw them. We got no parking while charging or whatever. And it's got 2 arrows for each.
I haven't seen them yet.
All right. Anybody else got anything?
I got another thing. It's brought to my attention from one of the community members wondering if any way possible to, I don't know if we need flashing lights or something, but they're having issues at Center Street and Main Street there by the bank and the hardware store and the workout.
What
Cars just
issues
going
are,
fast. Not letting pedestrians cross.
Well, we need to get the pedestrian crosswalk.
yeah, I don't think there's any, is there any crosswalk painted there?
It's
Or
rubbed
sign,
off.
I don't
I've
know.
contacted the state 3 times
Okay.
and I'll keep contacting them.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised they haven't turned it back to us to paint it. That's.
No, it's their road and they've said, yeah, we'll come paint
Oh,
it,
yeah,
but
I know it's their road, but you know how that goes.
I just didn't know, how to go about it because,
So we need the crosswalk. In order to enforce anything, we need the crosswalk painted and signs. Then yes, we can write tickets for that.
okay.
But it all has to be in place to do that.
We could get those little cones I see other cities have.
yeah.
They look like a pain. They look like a pain.
The,
Yeah, I
the-
wouldn't-
Down there.
the issue too we run into with blinking lights are MnDOT's very protective of what goes on the roads.
Okay.
So that we would have to get approved from MnDOT too about that.
Well, would they have to sign? They'd probably have to sign it if the crosswalk's there. You know what I mean?
They would be the ones that we'd have to make sure we get all approval from because they're very particular about what goes on the roads.
But I've seen those in other.
Yeah, and then we'd have to
On
make sure too
highways.
that the blinking signs are always working because once they if it's blinking all the time, they'll just come and shut it off. So
Yeah, you're right.
I've seen
It's
that
a
on
busy
cities.
road. I get it. I mean,
It's one of the hardest roads to cross turn. It's
Yeah.
it's a safety hazard for sure.
it is. There's definitely an issue there. It's just.
So I would say, yes, keep contacting them about that. The other, the one I heard about was up at the
So,
Han Lumber and
Take care.
Oak Meadow Meat
Up there?
Locker.
Ordinance,
That
yeah.
intersection is really dark. Some people say it's just extremely dark and you can't see the corner to make the turn and such things. And I said, well, it's a state highway and county road, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can put a light up.
Sounds
A
like,
street light?
sounds like I'm gonna need some letters from some council members.
What's that?
I didn't notice that.
Getting
I
some
mean,
light-
I don't know there's no streetlight out there, but
Mhm.
you're also.
On the outs, I mean.
if you
I,
really
can-
wanna be
I
technical,
can get
there's
some
no
letters from
streetlight
council
in my
members. I can
front
forward them to MinDOT too.
That's why you got headlights on your car too. So,
Yeah. That's all I got. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
Oh, this weekend is Fall Fest, right? Fall Fest
Trail?
Trail,
Taste of the
right?
Trail.
Taste the Trail,
Right.
Taste the Trail.
Oh, I couldn't tell you're looking at me.
Yeah, sorry. Look at you, looking at Lisa. Sorry, Lisa. I know. If I take them off. Yeah, Taste the Trail.
On Saturday in Harvey from 10 till 2.
Come on out and yeah.
Brandon, ask a question.
You may.
Okay, thank you. You guys brought up the poles that are going on, the poles that need to be put up yet by Moore Electric.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which ones are being replaced? Do you guys know, or do you have to make
Yeah.
that decision yet?
We have a pattern. It's the ones north of the Stells, the side streets. Poles will be done.
The one that is on
There's
on 52
12 or
there?
13.
I can't remember the exact number.
Yeah.
It's either 12 or 13, yeah.
it goes down to
Are you talking about the one that's sitting right by on 52 by the run right?
No,
Which one are you talking about?
because that one always gets knocked down.
By whom?
not so much that one. It's
Different
usually
people.
across the street and the one at the Agri Service always get knocked down. but That one has been knocked down before, you are correct.
So how many poles do you have to put up yet?
A lot.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Like more than 4?
We ordered 13 for now. And we're going all the way back down.
Then they're gonna go south.
We're going
We're
straight.
finishing downtown
Yep,
first
and then they're
Yeah.
gonna,
and then going.
So there
south.
will be like the ones that are replaced by the old tin rust?
That would be part of
replaced
that,
too?
part of the project, because
And then, but not the one that's by the runway?
probably not that far, because we're doing some of
I-
the side streets.
There was one right too that was a taller pole too. I gotta remember which one was
Yeah.
which.
That could be that one.
I would
on
say
the corner.
stuff south of Run Right in the Agri Service, I don't know where that cutoff is exactly, but
Because one was,
Yeah, I
one's
got-
a 16
I got the
foot.
layout.
Yeah.
It's at home.
Okay.
There's like 12 or 13.
Can I get a copy of the layout?
I'll try and find it and send it to you.
Okay.
Can I do that?
That'd be cool.
Okay.
Because one of the poles at Run Right's a 16, not a 12 footer, so that created some issues
yeah,
too.
I think that's right on the corner.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, it's more or less the side streets, and then I think maybe,
You mean it's just more or less the on the east and west sides of 139?
yeah,
Okay.
and then I think there was
Is it down to the
one or two down to finishing it up down to the school edge. I think
What about on Center Street? Are
poles are done. Yep.
those are all done now?
Both will get done.
Those
They will
be
be.
done? Okay. And is that gonna be part of the ones that Warren are gonna do next?
They have already. Well, they're here, but
They have we have the poles to do those, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we know if they'll be done this year?
They're supposed to
We're at
be.
the Liberty.
the contractor is.
Stuart's laid up, so don't call him.
Oh, I know that. Okay. All right, thanks, you guys.
He doesn't do any work anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Hearing nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.